Do you want to scale from $1,000 a day to 4K, 5K within a week without losing all your profitability? I can show you how to do that in this video, and it'll be a YouTube scaling session strategy in this video. So let's get into it. So this is an e-commerce brand. I've been working with them for about a year now, or almost a year next month. Been great. We're primarily focused on YouTube. We do have some search campaigns in the past. However, this is in the beauty industry and search is very hard to do unless we have great advertorials. And that is the thing I'm working on. However, right now we are trying to build back from basically a huge policy strike that we had that we were down for almost 30 days, killed our account in terms of just overall momentum. We're at 10K a day spend for about 60 days, almost up to 15K for a little bit of that. And then we lost it all. And the old strategy that was working in terms of a very horizontal scale approach, just cannot get back. We cannot get above basically 1K a day profitably, maybe up to $1,500 a day or two, but we were stuck at $1,000 a day and spinning my wheels and probably about to get fired, to be honest, just because the strategy wasn't working anymore. So we decided to, have one more month of just testing a completely different approach, something that I've been thinking about for a long time and have started testing across a few other clients. And I think it is a much better long-term scenario for e-commerce brands that want to scale mainly on YouTube, where YouTube attribution is hard to do. We do have Hyros, so shout out Becker. And it is very helpful because we do go off of that. This is not, it's not as cut and dry as we know. We have overlap with Meta, and we know Meta has overlap with Google. At our peak, we were about 1.3 to 1 ratio of Meta to Google spend. So we actually get up quite close to Meta. This is a fully Meta-driven brand before we got into the account. So I want to show you how exactly last week, right? We scaled from $1,000 a day average spend up to 4K a day we hit yesterday, and we will hit probably 5K and almost 6K by basically tomorrow or Saturday. So scaling very quickly while making sure we're still profitable. We do have a little bit of a sales cycle, and that's a very key thing you need to understand with YouTube. It's not as cut and dry as Facebook. You cannot just spend 1, 2, 3x CPA without a sale or unprofitable and you pause it and kill it. You're never going to be able to scale as well as you can using more of a blended approach. I have heard a few media buyers talk about operating YouTube like that, and maybe it can work. I just haven't talked to any other one else that really, I haven't seen it in many use cases treating YouTube like Facebook and it actually scaling to a certain point, unless maybe you just have a killer offer in your first market, maybe stuff like that does work. But 99% of you, I think if you follow this, you'll get better results. So what am I saying? Just for proof, right? Last 7 days, show the cost here. We're basically averaging $1,000 a day, 7K across 7 days, $1,000, easy math. And now the last 7 days, we're getting close to basically 3K day average. But yesterday we were up to 4K for 1 day spend. And with scaling today, we'll be at least over 5K, hopefully closer to 6K by end of next 2 days. So how is this happening? What am I doing? It's nothing crazy. It's not really nothing. The main thing is you need to understand how Google interprets an ad sequence, and what creatives you give Google is clearly Google will make a sequence for you, no matter if you like it or not. It's going to try to find and identify a winning ad, which you'll then push to more people, right? It's going to have most of the spend in your ad groups. It's going to have, if you give it 5 ads, you're often going to see 1 ad probably getting close to 90% of your spend, maybe 2, but most of it will be within 1. And then you're going to have some smaller ads that, look maybe a little bit more profitable if you look at the ad level metrics, but you're always saying, well, why does Google push this one ad? Well, I'm not talking about an ad sequence campaign here. Those are amazing. I do love those. I'm trying to then incorporate those into this kind of 2-layer approach strategy, which I'll be updating my channel soon. But you need to understand how Google uses your ads, and that not every ad needs to have a profitable return on it or a great looking CAC. That's not the point. And that's where if you over optimize and over media buy and treat YouTube like Meta, you would pause your best ad and then know when you cannot scale because you just basically effed up the entire sequence that Google created to actually serve users in the best way possible, reach new pockets of users that never heard of you before, that is a cold audience, and then actually being able to nurture them and market to them, right? You need to think with smart bidding for either if you're still using video action campaigns, which are deprecated now and they're no longer be able to be made unless you planned ahead of time and paused a lot of them, which is what this campaign is. Or if you're using demand gen and either going on InStream, Shorts, InFeed, whatever, those are conversion-based campaigns, right? Now, you want most of your spend to go to prospecting to new people, to try to start new customer journeys and new pathways, right? However, at the same time, since they're conversion focused, it cannot purely just be prospecting the entire time. And that was a thing I ran into quite a bit, honestly, until not until, but with video action campaigns, I would notice every time I got across like $1,000, $2,000 a day in spend for a video action campaign, for a YouTube campaign, it would just slowly go from like 85 to 9% of prospecting and new visitors looking at, say, High Roast or Triple Whale or North Beam, and then getting dropped down to like 55%, 60%. And now half our spend was just being allocated back toward nurturing those new touch points. So that's where you needed an actual ad sequencing campaign that's based off reach and TCPMs. But for video action campaigns and demand gen campaigns, you need to nurture. You cannot just, since the goal is a conversion that is tracked back to Google, right? It cannot just be getting pure reach-based people. So knowing this and knowing that you need to prospect and nurture, it changes how you view, and it should change how you media buy as well, because Google needs to find an ad that can be pushed and that can scale into new audiences and actually start new customer journeys that are qualified. But then it also must have an ad or ads that can be used for retargeting. And that is the biggest thing that I think people forget about. And if they look so micro and so down at the ad level metrics, which if you're a Facebook media buyer, you probably do, and that's how you make decisions off of just pure creative metrics, you need to take a step back and more view YouTube and just Google as a channel as a whole. Because I know most Meta people, Meta's at, a 1x, and they don't ever look at what's prospecting, what's nurturing, right? And they just think, oh, Google needs to be at a 5 or 10x because that's my benchmark. Yes, that is how you've been scaling, because Google is a secondary channel to you. But at the same time, once you start scaling Google into a new customer journey and you're actually getting new customers independently from Meta, why are you trying to view Google in a different way than you are viewing a Meta, where you're using in a blended view? It makes no sense. So, and happy to discuss that with you in the comments. But for this specific thing, I want to show you an example. This is the last 7 days. This is our top spending campaign. If you see here, it's a scaling campaign, layer 2, video action campaign. The offer is 70% off, and we're doing just maximize conversion value for now. Now, looking at this, you can clearly see by cost, we have Google has self-identified a winning creative with basically 89% of it being served into this one ad. What does this mean? This is the first ad in the sequence that Google has shown, and this is what Google wants to show as a first ad. You kind of see this by looking at the lower front-end engagement rates. And what do I mean by that? Well, the two main engagement rates I look at for the front-end KPIs are in-stream view rate, since this is an in-stream ad, at 21%. And that's fine. My benchmark ideally is 20%. The closer to 25, 30%, the better. And then click-through rate, my benchmark is ideally 1%, closer to 2%, the better. Now, that's at lower engagement. Well, I wonder why. Because that is a first ad in your sequence reaching new people. Google does not expect this ad to have the highest engagement rate. But it has found through its testing, this is the best ad to show in the first sequence of ads that are then shown to users over a frequency of time. And you can see here in this orange, this second ad, again, was being tested against this one. You can see it's the second most spend. And again, very similar lower engagement rate KPIs is being used as a first ad in the sequence, seeing which one can be tested. And this one, it starts trailing in spend it's kind of just in the middle hanging out. Versus the ones in the green, these two ads right here, these are purely remarketing ads in this sequence. And you can see this because one, very low percentage used, 2%, right? A lot less spend. But when they are used, you have a way higher engagement rate. And these ads, pretty similar as a whole. Like these are just a little bit longer iterations of what this is. Now, what we've noticed here, if you look at the high engagement rate, a 26% view rate and almost a 27% view rate, much better than 21. And the click-through rate is absolutely, basically double at a 1.47 and 1.44. That's getting very, very good click-through rate. I'm very happy with that. And you need to understand, like if I came in here as a meta-focused media buyer and a client was pressing me on, hey, why is this ad running? It's not in here. I think it's running at like a 0.7x ROAS. This campaign is like in-app is at a 1.1 actuality and high ROAS, what we actually judge off of and what a North Star is. That's actually, it's 1.3. And then our actual blended account return right now is a 1.7 or 1.8, and we're profitable and we're scaling well. So then if you didn't know what you're doing, which again, I didn't for the longest time, and I was over optimizing these campaigns, I would think, oh yeah, you're right. It's spending, we're wasting money. It's not doing a good job. in actuality, it's doing exactly what Google is supposed to do. It's trying to, oh boy, it's trying to find more people with this ad, knowing it's the best ad in the sequence, and it's created a sequence itself right here. So instead of running my own ad sequence campaign, which you would then do this exact same thing, I would create, ad 1, they skip it, they view ad 2, they view it, they see ad 3. It's a great strategy, it's not conversion focused. So I'm still trying to test on this layered approach, but do not pause this ad since this is your this is your main ad. And you can then look at this in your attribution report, looking at the views and stuff like that as well. Now, obviously, if over time when I'm scaling, let's say I'm holding it a 1x in app for this this campaign and like a 1.3, right, in higher which is a good for top of funnel for me. And over time, I keep seeing, okay, goes to 0.7, goes to 0.5, 0.3, and it's still just putting all the money into this. That's a clear indication of then it's just the ad's not working anymore. Creative burnout, which I don't really believe too much in creative fatigue as much on YouTube as I do on Meta, because the audience is just, it's huge and usually can last for a very long time on YouTube. So that would be in the sense of, okay, well then let's try to pause it. That's when you start injecting L1 creatives into your L2 campaigns while you have those. And that's why you want to continuously inject those on a weekly basis, just to make sure you're giving Google new creatives that are tested well. They passed two main thresholds. One is Google self-selected as winner, and then two are the front-end engagement rates good enough in terms of a click-through rate and a view rate and a view percentage for the duration of it. So again, find your own benchmarks. I like at least 1% click-through rate, ideally closer to 2. View rate, at least 20%, closer to 25 and 30. So that's it. That's how I've scaled from 1K to 4K a day in ad spend on YouTube in the last 7 days for this e-commerce brand. Ideally close to 5, 6K a day by end of the weekend. And I can have another update for you hopefully in a week from now. And we're getting closer to that 7.5K to 10K a day and making sure we're holding that profitable return. So if you have any questions on YouTube ads or any Google ads in general for e-commerce, drop them below. And if you liked it, give me a thumbs up and appreciate it. Bye.